What's going on, everybody? My name is C4. Welcome back to the channel. And I've never really done like my kind of early 2026 NFL mock draft. At least now that we kind of know which players are going to be declared. We got a couple, a month in almost of college football. And like really the thing that got me was like I was just sitting in pickup line for my kids from school. And I was like, there's a couple guys for sure. Like I've watched this year that like, those guys are going to be first rounders. And I go look at these mock drafts. I go look at people that are making mock drafts. And these guys aren't even on their list. And I went, okay, let's have a little bit of fun. It's still a way too early mock draft. Some of these guys might not even declare. Some of these guys might be terrible and be mid-round picks. But there are a couple players that I can say with conviction that I've seen that like they look very good players that aren't even sitting in first rounds. They're like, okay, this could be a great little time to have a little bit of fun here with a way too early 2026 NFL mock draft. And it just kind of splits up some of the uploads here as I am working on a second episode of our Bill Belichick North Carolina College Football 26 Dynasty Rebuild Series. That'll be out on the weekend. Tomorrow on Friday, we are doing Vegas Raiders offseason number 2. And if you can't make it, I will cut that video up and upload it on the weekend as well. On top of other rebuilds, I was like, let's just space it out here, have a little bit of fun, and let's do an early 2026 mock draft with some, I hope they don't end up in age as wild picks. But this could end up being maybe one of the more bizarre, like, oh my God, swing and a miss, strikeout type mock draft I've done in a while. So at pick number 1, and this needs to be said because it's kind of, at this point in time, a wild draft order. Like, I really don't think the Baltimore Ravens will be picking at 12. I really don't think the Chiefs will be picking at 8. I really don't think the Colts will be picking at 31. But we got to kind of take it for what it is. Mock drafts are silly and don't make sense. And this draft order currently is silly. It doesn't really make sense. So without repeating it every single time, we got to go with the perspective to have a little bit of fun here. If somehow these teams end up at these picks at the end of 18 weeks, that is what we need to do. So at number 1, we have the Jets. And Justin Fields looked pretty good in the first game against the Steelers. Good enough to be like, maybe there's something there. But the Jets end up with the number 1 pick. They are probably going to need a quarterback. And the best quarterback that I've seen in college football that makes me go, that guy is an NFL quarterback. Now, Nussmeier's been dealing with some injuries. It's not him. These two are interesting in pretty much every mock draft. Most people are going to be either like, they're going to return to school, so I'm not going to draft him. I have Sellers declaring, and I'll explain that when I get to it. I have Arch Manning returning, so we won't be drafting him with any of these teams. But the best quarterback that I've seen. Here we go. Number 1 overall, I'm going Dante Moore, the quarterback from Oregon. The former 5-star recruit has looked incredible. Now it's Oregon, right? Oregon's had a reputation the last couple years. Bo Nix, to a degree, right? Dylan Gabriel. Their OC is humming with all these different quarterbacks. Maybe he's going to be the next Lincoln Riley 2.0. I don't know. Well, what I've seen with Dante Moore, I already put a future on him to win the Heisman Trophy. Now, obviously, he needs to pad his stats a little bit more, but he looks every bit of a future franchise quarterback in the NFL. Now, will he declare if only 1 year? Who knows? But from all the different quarterbacks that I've seen play, it's very early in this college football season, the one that has made me go, if I needed a quarterback, and I have 6, 7 quarterbacks going in this mock draft, which is not shocking. Most mock drafts have 5 to 6. The number 1 out of all of them, I would, if I was the Eagles, and my favorite team needed a quarterback, the one that I would want, the one quarterback in college that I would want is Dante Moore, so that's why I have him going number 1 to the Jets. Number 2, we have the New Orleans Saints. Similar story, much like Justin Fields and the Jets. Rattlers look pretty decent, all things considered, but if they're in this pick, I think Garrett Nussmeier is a selection that they run up to the board. Now, LSU's passing offense has been pretty whelming, to say the least. There are reports, obviously, Nussmeier is not playing at 100%, but the son of a football coach, Doug Nussmeier, who's spent time with both my teams, the Florida Gators and the Philadelphia Eagles, I think probably the word for Nussmeier, if you're comparing him to a class that's going to have a lot of first-round quarterbacks, at least in this mock draft, I think he has the highest floor. I think you're going to have the least bust probability, maybe not the highest ceiling, but he does all the hard things right. Might not have a generational arm, but his processing is very good. He gets the football where he needs to go. I think he's shown the ability to win when things maybe around him aren't going perfectly. I think there's some value in that as well. So I have him going number 2 to the Saints. Number 3, the Miami Dolphins. This is where we get a little weird. The Dolphins, I looked into it. Tua has 1 year left, and it looks like you can get out of his contract in 2027. So I'm going like you're going to have Tua for 1 year regardless of what happens. Are they going to fire Mike McDaniel? I would lean yes. I would lean right now. He's probably, the Vegas favorite to be the first coach fired. But the fact of the matter is that when he's kind of got everything humming there, that offense has been one of the best offenses in the league. So do they, because Tua's not his quarterback. He inherited Tua. Is there some scenario where Mike McDaniel gets a chance to get his own quarterback? And if that is the case, and I mean, this could be regardless of him, I think the situation of Tua, and you have to pretty much have him for 1 more year, makes me view the Dolphins here as maybe they're going to be the redshirt team. Maybe they'll be the team that draft that quarterback that isn't quite ready, and then they can go. So I think if they have McDaniel, this pick makes even more sense because I think he'd be the quarterback they want because McDaniel just loves athletes. I'm going LaNorris Sellers. Now, I think much like Arch Manning, LaNorris Sellers should go back to college football for another year's seasoning, but it reminds me a lot of Anthony Richardson with the Florida Gators. Same was said about Anthony Richardson. Right? Got the first round grade, got top 5 pick grade. But the reality is, didn't play enough football at Florida. As a Gator fan, would have loved to have him come back for 1 more year to see what he can do. And I feel like those vibes are very similar with LaNorris Sellers. But it's the NFL. When you have the freaky traits that LaNorris Sellers has, and a situation like in Miami where you won't have to throw him the wolves, you can have Tua play until you feel like it's appropriate to throw him out there. I think that would be a very interesting landing spot, and at minimum, get the Dolphin fans excited. Now we have the Cleveland Browns at number 4. They are a team that's desperate for a quarterback. Now, I'm not necessarily having my favorite quarterback go next, but I'm going to go with one that seems like maybe the next safest, if you will, because there is obviously risk. Dante Moore, I'm going off of my personal opinion. There's no one else is really caught on. And LaNorris Sellers has a pretty considerable boom or bust potential, where someone like Nussmeier might have a higher floor. I think if I'm the Browns, I would look at Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback, the Cal transfer at Indiana. I think if you're just looking at quarterbacks that look right now like NFL quarterbacks, that I think you could just throw them to the Wolves and start day one, I would consider Mendoza here to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, is there still hope, expectations for Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. But if the Browns are in this situation to draft a franchise potential quarterback, and I feel like they don't necessarily view that for Dillon Gabriel. And I mean, the draft capital required to bring those guys in kind of reflects where they may view them if they are at the top end of the draft to get a true game changer at quarterback. And Mendoza is just great arm, can scramble, has dual threat ability, prototypical size, and all those check marks. Yes, they are buzzwords. Yes, they are words to describe every quarterback. All those check marks raise that floor up for getting a guy that's going to be a good NFL player. How high is Mendoza's ceiling? Is it as high as a LaNorris Sellers? Is it as high as maybe a Drew Allar? If Drew Allar can put it all together. Maybe not. But I think if you're like a team like the Browns, you kind of want to take maybe the safer pick because you are so desperate for even good quarterback play. If you can get a guy that may only ever be, a quarterback rated between, like a Jared Goff type, maybe a Sellers or maybe a Drew Allar puts it all together and can be like a top 5 quarterback down the line. Maybe. But do you want to take that swing where there's a chance that he's not? Would you rather go with a safer player that can give you top 10-ish quarterback play and then you can win with your run game and your defense? I think the Browns might go and opt for the safer option. We have the Titans at number 5, and I'm going to have them select maybe the most disruptive defensive player to start college football, and that is Rueben Bain Jr. from Miami. This guy's an absolute animal. Was kind of, 2 years ago, looked like a top 5 pick. Last year, played through some injury. Height kind of faded a little bit. Now we are right back into it. He's a monster. I've watched Miami play. I remember the season opener. Felt like, especially in that second half, took the game over. Pretty good player. And I'm looking at the Titans, and I think that defense needs to add a little bit more juice, especially in the pass rush department. Number 6, we have the Chicago Bears. And here I'm going to have the Bears go with a player that's kind of a little bit of a slow start, but I think the talent is still absolutely there. We're going to go T.J. Parker, the pass rusher for Clemson. I think just kind of vibes are down across the board for Clemson, but we can't let a bad start to the season affect, and in this part, we're going to talk about 2 players on the defensive side of the ball. elite players that might not have had best player. I think TJ Parker, and we'll get to it eventually with Peter Woods, bad start or not, those guys are fringe blue chip players as it stands. I think once we get, even if they, close out this year and it's not the best, I think once we get to the testing cycle, we're going to go, oh yeah, okay, even after a down year, these guys are absolutely insane. And I think for the Chicago Bears, getting more juice to that pass rush, maybe a little bit on our side, Montez Sweat starting to get a little bit older, that would be where I would go if I am the Bears. New York Giants up next at number 7, and we're going to stay with the Clemsons, and we're going to get Peter Woods. Last Clemson D tackle you got in, Sexy Dexy, worked out pretty well. I think Peter Woods, play them together. There you go. Just continue to have an absolutely terrifying defense. Weird board for the Giants here. Like, I assume they're going to go Jackson Dart. You got your receivers. Offensive line, thought maybe, tackle, but you have that Mbao guy who had his first start last week. Maybe there's something there, right? And obviously you have Andrew Thomas. So, you could go tackle, could continue to improve the offensive line here, but I look more so on the defensive side of the ball, and we went with a safe play in Peter Woods. Kansas City at 8. Is there any way the Chiefs are picking 8? Probably not, but if they are, they're going to use that opportunity to get the best wide receiver in the class, and that is Jordyn Tyson from Arizona State. It is very clear watching the Chiefs play that Patrick Mahomes needs more weapons. He's the best weapon. Don't let this happen. We need Kansas City to win a couple more games so another team can draft Jordyn Tyson. But very self-explanatory. Tyson's a beast. Weak wide receiver class? Question mark. I guess that'd be the vibes. I only have a couple guys here. I do have 2 more wide receivers going in the first round, but certainly not a strength of this year's class. Pick number 8 with the Carolina Panthers. Another interesting selection because if they're picking at this range, do they give up on Bryce Young? Like, what goes on there? Do they look maybe for a veteran quarterback on the open market? This was one that I had, here's my notes here. The only team that I've crossed out 3 different picks was the Panthers. I think they could go quarterback. You could give up there. But also, in this spot, you could get a blue chip player, and that's what I have them doing, getting Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State. And with this selection, because it's still way too early, we're only, two games in the regular season, I want to have belief that Bryce Young will figure it out. Again, bias, Eagle bias. I saw what Bryce Young did on the road at Lincoln Financial Field last year, Panthers-Eagles. You just figure, get him back to that, and that is play that he is capable of. That's a player. But honestly, I haven't watched a lot of Panthers games. I think the Cardinals game looked a little bit better. But, I don't know. I just kind of get the vibes that everything is all on Bryce Young. And maybe you'd want to go quarterback here. But if you're not going to go quarterback, I think the one player Panther fans would be very content with is maybe the pound-for-pound best player in this class, and that is Caleb Downs. Just game record defensive back from Ohio State. We have the Houston Texans at pick number 10. Man, oh man, the Texans are ass. I have not been more bored by watching a team this season. They look literally the same as last year's Texan team that was banged up and underperformed, except they look like a team that lost Laramie Tunsil, and their offensive line somehow got even worse. So with that, we're going to go with the best tackle in this class, and that is Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle from Utah. Figured out he can play either side. We'll start day 1. Obviously, give CJ Stroud a chance to rebound and get back to the player that we thought he could be from his rookie season. New England Patriots at number 11. I'm going to go just a little bit favoritism for a player that I love, and that is Matayo Uiagalelei, the edge rusher from Oregon. I think Patriots pass rush could be neat. I thought wide receiver, but again, it's a weak wide receiver class. Maybe you hope Keyshawn Butte continues to develop there a little bit. But I think when I look on the defensive side of the ball, I think just straight up edge rush, they don't really have a long-term plan for their edges. And I think someone like Uiagalelei is a variable guy through and through. Absolute dog. And I think has a lot of upside. I think he can be a double-digit pass rusher in the NFL. Now again, mock draft, take it for what it is. Somehow if the Ravens are picking at number 12, something terrible happened. But I have them doing the most Raven things possible, and that is just drafting the best player on the board, and that is Keldric Faulk, the edge rusher from Auburn. Now, I think Faulk's he's a bigger edge rusher, so I did think he probably fits a little bit more that Baltimore Ravens front. My first mock, I had them getting Caleb Downs. If Baltimore picks at 12, they're 1,000% not going to draft for need. They're going to draft the best available player who fell to them, and that is why I went with Faulk above all. Now we have Dallas, first of 2 selections for the Dallas Cowboys, and here at pick number 13, they're probably pissed off. Even though maybe Faulk's not a perfect scheme fit for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to have them go and just try to run it back with a Micah Parsons type. Now, in terms of style, if you want to find, I think maybe David Bailey is more Micah Parsons style, but I don't know, man. That might be a little. I don't have this in my notes. I might just be able to switch this. Let's do it. I think David Bailey is, in terms of, like, you're looking for just freak athleticism. I think Sutton probably should, Penn State edge rushers usually do end up testing pretty well, but I think David Bailey, the Stanford transfer at Texas Tech, like, that's, if you're trying to, like, follow the blueprint of Micah Parsons, like, hybrid linebacker, that's probably going to run, like, a 4.5. Bailey started out hot for Texas Tech. I mean, he was there. I remember the reports where he was one of the biggest NIL contracts from the portal. Yeah, looks like it. It certainly tracks. In Dallas at 13, I think that is your immediate, like, we're going to get our Micah Parsons replacement, and I think Bailey could be that guy. A lot of similarities in terms of their athletic profile and game. Next up for the Commanders, Marshon Lattimore's burnt toast. So, you're really in a situation here where I think we go with the highest graded and probably the most impressive corner that I've seen this season. I think McCoy's a baller as well. But I'm going to go Mansour Delane. Height, weight, speed, 6'1". I think he's Virginia Tech transfer. First year at LSU, though. The LSU secondary does look pretty scary. They got an absolute stud, DJ Pickett, one to remember. But I think Delane has solidified himself as a legitimate first-rounder. And I wouldn't be surprised when all is said and done, he could sneak ahead of McCoy and be the first corner selected. But I think for the Commanders, that defense, meh. I think that's secondary. I think you have a Marshon Lattimore problem. Maybe it was a bad day, but he didn't look particularly great after injury last year, and he got absolutely picked on. He was the weak link, and he was what the Packers were targeting to get the football down the field. So I think corner is a big-time need. Now we have the Cleveland Browns. This is their second pick of the first round, and I am going to have them select Trevor Gooseby, the tackle from Texas. Now I will say Maui Go is very talented, but I think there's a chance he might be a guard in the NFL. And if that is the case, still first rounder, still haven't gone to the mock draft, but pure tackles are always going to be a priority. And Gooseby is, I think right now, like a top 20 PFF tackle, 6'7", 300 pounds, has looked pretty damn good for Texas. And I think that is what you need to find for the Browns. I think a right tackle, long-term play, maybe even a left tackle. It's not like DeJuan Jones is really carved out enough reputation to be like, that's our future franchise guy. I think Gooseby is going to be a riser, and I think will be a lock to go in the first round. And for the Browns, I think you get your quarterback, you get a tackle. Hopefully that can be a franchise tackle, and you can kind of build off the rest there for that offense. Detroit, here at pick number 16, I'm going to have them get Danny Dennis Sutton, the edge rusher from Penn State. So many people last year were screaming for the Lions to get a pass rusher play on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. They kind of surprisingly went D-tackle. I originally had them going David Bailey. We made that quick switch here. I think Dennis Sutton, another guy, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the most productive edge rusher in college football this year. I think he already has 2-3 sacks for the first couple of weeks. I think he'll definitely be a double-digit guy. He's Penn State. Looks like he has a lot of juice, which tends to mean he's got to test out the park when it happens. And I think that would be a good get to put on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. Minnesota at pick number 17. I think that defensive line can use a little love. And I'm going to go with a Florida Gator. Now, I don't really want a whole lot to talk about the Florida Gator football program right now, but we have some very good players that will be heading towards the 2026 NFL Draft, and none more talented, I think, than Caleb Banks. Missed the first game, but I think as the season goes on, you're going to see the kind of production. 6'6", 320-some pounds, and he can get after the quarterback. I think that is a lot of what Minnesota needs. I was looking really at that Vikings defense, and I think that defensive line could get a little bit more youth. And I think if somehow, the DC doesn't get poached for a head coaching opportunity, and obviously with how things end in Miami, you never know with Flores. I think he could do a lot of creative things with Caleb Banks, and they get 17, improving that D-line would be a hit. They had some, Jalen Redmond's kind of stepped up, broke out. I liked him, man. He was good at Oklahoma. But I think overall, pound for pound, adding more talent to that defensive line, you can't go wrong if you're the Vikings there. Pick number 18, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm going to have them select wide receiver Denzel Boston from Washington. So they get a local guy. Kind of just looking at that wide receiver room. Is Cooper Kupp going to be more than a one-year rental? Like, is there a chance that, like, JSN's really their only guy they feel comfortable starting long-term right now? They got Torrey Horton, had some other guys. But I think someone like Boston, 6'4". I think he's going to test pretty well. has a lot of, he's kind of like, I don't know. I haven't watched enough to throw it a lazy comp, but like he just seems like he has some like T-Mac McMillan to his game a little bit. Maybe even a little more juice in that department. But I just see a guy that can kind of, like, I'm not saying he's going to be like DK freak of nature athlete, because DK Metcalf's kind of one-on-one freak specimen. But I think he, stylistically anyways, he offers something that wide receiver core does not have in Seattle. And I think that is an area of need for them to address at pick 18. We have the Vegas Raiders at pick 19. And we're going to go with the hot quarterback name right now. That is John Matier out of Oklahoma. It's lazy comp time, but you do kind of see it. Baker Mayfield, in a way. I think Baker Mayfield had a much is excessive. I think Baker Mayfield had a better arm. But John Mateer's played efficient football. I think Vegas, very similar to how we talked about the Miami Dolphins. Clearly, you're going to have Geno Smith there for one more year. But through the first 2 weeks of the season, Geno Smith is playing nothing like our Raiders franchise. He's kind of been a liability. I think, obviously this is going to be a Tom Brady probably decision, especially if they go quarterback. I think Brady would like some of the juice that John Matier brings. I think Tom Brady would embrace maybe the more old school approach of sitting a quarterback and letting Geno Smith play and then easing him in. Matier has looked pretty damn good for Oklahoma. There are some aspects to his game that are maybe he'll only ever get away with that in college and may struggle transitioning to the NFL, but there's also plenty of positives that say all it takes is one team to fall in love with him for him to be a first-round quarterback, and I've seen some mock drafts have him go as the number one pick. Now, that is obviously probably overreactionary to how the college football season started, and I also say that, and I have freaking Dante Moore going first overall. But I think this could be a pick that ages terribly because he goes higher or terribly because he doesn't go in the first round. But I will kind of always say, from what I've watched the eye test, if Bo Nix, and maybe not a hot start, but how he played his rookie season, Bronco fans have been pretty happy with Bo Nix. But if Bo Nix can go in the first round, some of these other guys that I think, like, I want to just say, like, he's a college quarterback that might not ever be that next, take that next step and keep that level of play at the NFL level. Those guys go in the first round. All it takes is one team to fall in love, and I don't think it'd be shocking with the start that he's had for Oklahoma for John Matier to sneak into the first round. I also think it wouldn't be shocking if, he's just getting incredibly overvalued right now and falls. And, like, I don't know where he falls on that spectrum right now. So I'm going to go and view it, glass half full and have him sneak in the first round. Vegas certainly needs something developmental at quarterback. Moving on, we have the Denver Broncos at pick number 20. And I'm going to have them grab a wide receiver here in Makai Lemon from USC. I look at that wide receiver room. Yes, you got Cortland Sutton, but his best football is, he's probably at the end of his peak. You got Troy Franklin, who's maybe emerging a little bit, maybe not. Is there going to be consistency over the full length of the season? You got Marvin Mims, who's kind of like a niche deep threat player. I think if Denver can go and find a guy that could potentially become a wide receiver one for that team long term, that would make a lot of sense to continue with the development of Bo Nix. I think Lemon from USC is slowly going to play himself into almost a consensus first-round pick this year. Very good football player, kind of an all-rounder. And for Denver, getting more weapons for Bo Nix so that hopefully he doesn't continue to struggle like he has so far this season would be helpful. Pittsburgh at number 21. We are going to go Drew Allar at quarterback. Another player where it's just like, man, traits alone, he could go higher. But there's just the inconsistencies that we saw last year that we're all hyping up that he's going to get it fixed out and he's going to play and become a top 5 player this year. He still looks like he's trying to figure it out. He will get drafted on traits alone to a similar extent of like LaNorris Sellers. I think Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers, like, is Aaron Rodgers going to play another year? Like, Aaron Rodgers through 2 games has looked a mixed bag, but he looks like certainly a quarterback that can help the Pittsburgh Steelers navigate and maintain that Mike Tomlin playoff streak. And if you can convince him to come back for one more year, then you get an Allar to like understudy Aaron Rodgers. I think that could work out. Aaron Rodgers has obviously success as a mentor, I think we could say, with Jordan Love. Now, I'm not like super, locked in and plugged in to like that whole situation, but it sounded like he embraces being a mentor role. So if Pittsburgh can go out and get Drew Allar, that would be a favorable situation with Aaron Rodgers returning for one more season. We now have the Rams back-to-back picks, 22 and 23. Now at 22, I'm going to have the Rams go and get Jermod McCoy, who debatably is the top corner in this year's class out of Tennessee. That is an immense value selection right there for a team that I think he probably would start day one as a rookie. However, the second pick, we're going to have fun with another quarterback. And this is a quarterback that actually had like kind of a viral tweet saying like that. I like a lot of that. You want to swing for the fences. You want to test how much of a guru Sean McVay can be. Well, I didn't even check if he's on this site. I hope he is. Oh, no, he's not? Yes, he is! I'm going to go with the number 810 player. Give me Taylon Green. 6'6". Little slight. I think with his frame, you can put some weight on, but he's 6'6". We'll say 215 pounds. Runs a 4.4. Can throw a football over the mountains. And has started incredibly hot for Arkansas to start this year. Unfortunately, I lost my bet. Arkansas, I thought they could get the upset over Ole Miss. Wasn't his fault, really. I think there's still a couple brain fart throws here and again. But if we're going to talk about LaNorris Sellers and the traits and the upside, I think Taylon Green, to a lesser extent, may have that. Now, I say that and wouldn't be absolutely shocked if I'm a complete idiot and super wrong, and he ends up being like a classic, like, oh, we're going to move him to tight end or something like that. But if Sean McVay is this great QB guru, and maybe, like we just talked with the Steelers, if you get Matt Stafford to come back for one more year, you just got to get that quarterback in the pipeline. A year of Taylon Green sitting and learning, getting the Rams system, like, and under McVay and under Stafford, that could be scary. Because if he's one of those guys that the talent and athleticism is first round. It's consistency and everything between the ears. So if you can register him in that situation, that could be very scary. We're having fun with this mock draft, people. Literally just said this guy could take the league over, and also could be a 7th round quarterback tight end convert. That's why we do mock drafts, for fun, huh? Moving on, we have the Cardinals at number 24. And we're going to stop the free fall. I'm going to have them select Francis Mauigoa, the lineman from Miami. Again, it's just kind of a knock on him. Is he going to be a tackle? Is he going to be a guard? And I kind of have him going here to Arizona because if he is a tackle, he can play at right tackle. If he ends up being a guard, I think the Cardinals have needs at either guard spot that he can fill. He's just kind of best lineman available to keep things going there. And obviously, if Arizona finishes at pick 24, you don't really need to have the whole, like, should we have Kyler Murray debate, whether or not he's going to be their long-term quarterback. If they make the playoffs. Clearly, that's Kyler Murray's team, so let's continue to help build that offense around Kyler Murray. That'll be getting an offensive line help. Buffalo at number 25. Here's another fun pick. Let's go way out the board here. It's not as bad, but it is certainly way out. I have them going Xavier Harris. I think he could be a 3-tech or 1-tech from Ole Miss. 6'8", 330 pounds. They've shown their interest in that style of player by getting Deion Walker from Kentucky. Except Harris is, eye tests is all I have. Deion Walker, not a great athlete, unfortunately. Maybe some injuries affected that a little bit. Harris looks like a great athlete. And what if I told you this guy, 6'8", every bit, 6'8", 330 pounds, got some juice. Can get after the pass. I think he has, 2 sacks, a couple TFLs already through 3 games for Ole Miss. This is, I'm trying to get there early. Yes, some of these picks are hipster picks that could age well, but I'm seeing a guy here, Jordan Davis-esque, and the Jordan Davis that the Philadelphia Eagles have right now, where Jordan Davis has been our best defensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles through 2 weeks. At 6'6", 330 pounds, he's been getting after the quarterback, he's been getting into the backfield. I'm seeing some flashes already to start this year from Harris, and I think he could absolutely be a riser that should get a lot more first-round love as the college football season goes on. We have the Chargers at pick 26, and I just think, Khalil Mack retires, you need to get another pass rusher. I'm going to go LT Overton from Alabama. Big player. I think he could bring some versatility as well on that defense. You can kind of move him all along, have him on the line, have him go off the edge. I think he's also like 20, so you're getting kind of a guy with a lot of upside. And I would also kind of consider him as like a high floor player. Maybe not a guy that ever develops into like a 15, 16 sack guy, but I think he could be a productive run defender that can chip in for 7 to 9, 7 to 10 in that range. And, for getting that in the back end of the first round, you'll take that every day of the week. But more so, I think edge depth is a concern for the Chargers, especially if Khalil Mack is finished at the end of this year. Tampa Bay at number 27. And we're going to stay on the defensive line. I'm having to get Christian Miller, the D lineman from Georgia. Is graded out well from PFF. I think he's an ascending defensive lineman. I look at that Tampa Bay Bucks defensive line. You have Cansey, unfortunately. I think it's a season-ending injury. But that's just, I think, just still a defensive line that needs more bodies and needs more upside. Vita Vea's not getting any younger, even though he's still probably the best run defender in the NFL. And I think Christian Miller going on that defense would be an asset to Todd Bowles, and he can get creative, and he can play on a bunch of different fronts there for them. Now the San Francisco 49ers at pick 28, and here we're going to have them go offensive line. That's going to be a little bit of a hipster pick. I'm going to go Xavier Chaplin from Auburn. I think Caden Proctor, there's a lot of risk. I think Lomu, very similar to Maui Goa, might be a guard at the next level. And I think that it's a kind of a crapshoot. Chaplin's got a little bit of momentum right now, and he's looked very impressive for Auburn. I think he's going to be one of those players that probably is going to be regarded as a better run blocker than he is pass blocker, and that is kind of what San Francisco is looking for. I think they just re-signed their right tackle, but this is more in line, like, I think you're on board time with Trent Williams. I went through it with Jason Kelsey, where it's like you go to every offseason, is he going to retire, is he going to come back for one more year? I think to get an upside tackle in the pipeline should be a priority for the San Francisco 49ers. I think Chaplin would be that guy, but yeah, I wouldn't hate a Caden Proctor play as well, especially if what if Trent Williams wants to run it back, and you can have Proctor kind of be an understudy. But we're going with Chaplin right now. Just seems to be trending up a little bit more than Caden Proctor is. We now have pick number 29, the Bengals, and we're actually going to stay right here. I'm going to have them get Caleb Lomu. I think similar to Maui Go, as I just said, tackle, maybe, guard, maybe, either option. You should be very happy for the Bengals. They have to protect Joe Burrow. Kind of going with this play, looking at their team, more of a guard selection. You can have him be maybe right guard. Dylan Fairchild looks like he should be a nice starter for you guys, the rookie from Georgia, but the other side of the offensive line needs some help. I think Lomu would be a very nice selection. Utah has some dogs in the trenches this season. Philadelphia at pick number 30. I'm going to have my beloved Eagles get Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon. Dallas Goedert, it's going to be his final year. Philly, probably our biggest question mark is tight end and corner 2. And the corner 2 market's not ideal right now. You have Terrell, but he's a little bit on the slight side, which I wouldn't hate, right? We played and survived with Isaiah Rodgers on the outside. But I think for Philadelphia, I love what I see in Sadiq. This is a guy that has great athletic ability, can catch a football, can hurdle dudes, and he is a monster in the run game. He's literally a perfect tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it would be a dream for me to get him at pick number 30. The Colts are at pick 31, huh? Well, I think we're going to have them get the first linebacker off the board, and that is going to be Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State. Originally was a safety, kind of that safety linebacker hybrid, but he's 6'4", I think 230 pounds. Should light up the combine. Would be a guy that I wouldn't be shocked runs like, low 4.4s at that profile. Absolute game wrecker. And I think if I'm the Colts, I'd view this as like, okay, we're going to get our Darius Leonard again. We're going to have that maniac in the middle of the defense. That's not just like racking up tackles like Zaire Franklin, but get a guy that truly can take games over and change the game. He's been the best linebacker I've seen so far in college football this year, and a just unreal player. I think he's going to be a very, very good player and should go in the first round. And then we finish at pick 32 originally, the Green Bay Packers pick, now the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm going to have them select Caden Proctor, the tackle from Alabama. With that selection, you have just, I think you got to kind of look at, and we'll get this looks ugly. Terrence Steele is probably the weak link, probably the worst contract on that Dallas Cowboys team. So if you can kind of move on and get Caden Proctor, that would be the play. And I mean, if we got a little too hipstery, you could easily swap, Caden Proctor at 28 to the 49ers and have Chaplin go to the Dallas Cowboys at 32, kind of a logjam for tackles sneaking in to the first round. But we had some fun with this mock draft. I don't think you're going to see many mock draft content that has Dante Moore going first overall. I don't think you're going to see many mock draft content that has, I'm higher on Uiagalelei than most people. I'm higher on David Bailey than most people. I'm higher on Caleb. Maybe that's some Florida Gator bias. Maybe at this point it's aging not well, because a lot of mock drafts has Matier. I've seen a couple, like big operations, having to go first overall. So maybe I'm dogging Matier. We had Drew Allar fall. We're going to show Taylor Green some love. Can we get momentum around him as a potential first-round pick? And I think it's very situational with him, right? I don't think he's a first-round pick to any team, but I think if you get, like, in this scenario, Stafford back for another year, just let him redshirt and Jordan Love that whole situation. That could be a dangerous quarterback landing spot for Taylor Green. But there we go, fellas. Let me know what you think about this kind of still way too early 2026 NFL mock draft. Had some fun. Do you hate my pick for your team? Do you love my pick for the team? Is there anybody that I'm sleeping on not going in the first round? Please let me know in the comment section below. If it is your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed. Again, we'll be back here tomorrow live for our Vegas Raiders offseason stream 2. You're not going to want to miss it. But if you can't make it, we will cut that up and upload it as a video on the weekend so you can stay up to date with our Raiders franchise mode as we get into year 3 starting next week. But until that time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out, love ya. Have a good one.